I'm Paul Hires, and this is Unqualified Opinions. Today, I'll be once again joined by Will Beiermann to talk some more NBA and answer some more questions from some fans. But before we begin, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave your own unqualified opinions down in the comment section below. We want to hear what you want to see. With that being said, let's get into it. First question we got: how many years until certain rebuilding teams will be relevant, like Oklahoma City, the Magic, Rockets, Pistons, and the New Orleans Pelicans?
So I'll just do a little quick shallow dive into all these teams, try to make it as brief as possible for you guys. We'll start with Oklahoma City. They're probably looking at the longest rebuild, honestly, as much as they struggle right now. The Thunder obviously have a unique situation in NBA history with 36 picks over the next 7 years, 18 first-rounders, 18 second-rounders, so a good, clean split over that time period, which puts them in sort of a conundrum because that means at a certain point they're going to have to start punting on young players relatively fast just to keep roster space open. So right now they're working with a number of players: Darius Bazley, Ty Jerome, Theo Maledon, Aleksej Pokusevski. I'm leaving Shea and Josh Giddey out of that because I feel like they're already pretty close to centerpieces. But the name of the game for the Thunder is going to be talent evaluation. I mean, just in short bursts, trying to figure out which guys are going to stick relatively fast. Right now, they look years away, but again, with that many picks, we never know their timeline. If I had to guess, I'd say it's probably a good 3 seasons before they start to become relatively competitive again. Going to the Pelicans, they're the one team in this fan question I would not necessarily consider a rebuilding team. They're a team that's actively attempting to contend. However, that is clearly not going so well for them as they're currently without Zion Williamson, who is allegedly weighing in at 314 pounds, which is just a disastrous move for a player who is really kind of needed to lose weight. I mean, he's between 6'6" and 6'8", depending on which website you trust. And for him to weigh that much with the style he does, I mean, everyone's going to be always concerned about his knees and his joints. And if they can hold up that much weight for a long playing career, they're 1-10 right now without Zion. He has not played a game yet, and they currently are a team that's closer to needing a rebuild than actually being in one. So, I mean, their competitive window could be this very season if Zion miraculously comes back now and starts really turning things around, or they could be a team that's going to need to tear down and might not be ready for 5 years. So they're probably the most bizarre situation in the league right now, as they have no definitive direction. The Magic are really starting to accumulate talent. Jalen Suggs, Franz Wagner, Cole Anthony are recent first-round picks. They still have Jonathan Isaac, Mo Bamba, and Wendell Carter. I think they're going to be sneaky competitive probably by, I think, next season, honestly. They'll probably be vying for a playoff spot, assuming Isaac stays healthy. I think they're probably 2-3 years away from being competitive. Going to the Rockets, strange situation again, almost a complete teardown. John Wall's kind of the last holdover veteran guy they got going on there. They have Steven Silas, former Mavericks coach, who is assistant coach. It's his first job as the head coach, and he's just kind of going through it with them right now. They're trying to figure out which guys to build around. Josh Christopher and Usman Garuba are 2 young first-round picks who haven't played much, but we've seen a good run so far from Alperen Şengün. And, of course, Jalen Green, the number 2 pick of the draft. He's shown some great flashes so far. So is Şengün. This is a team that I'm probably going to say is 3 or 4 seasons away. Green definitely could kind of become like an Anthony Edwards caliber player by next season, honestly. He's got that kind of scoring gift, but I don't know how far away the roster around him is. There's really no big veterans right now, so I'm going to say 4 seasons before the Rockets are going to be competitive. And for the last one, it's the Pistons. Probably the weirdest mix of veterans and rookies right now. I mean, Cade Cunningham was just drafted to be the face and future of the Pistons franchise. They're really not a competitive team right now. Cade has barely played. They find themselves at 1-8 right now. But they have some interesting veterans on the roster, too. I mean, Kelly Olynyk's there. Hamidou Diallo is probably getting closer to veteran status at this point. Jeremy Grant, 27, so he's just a little bit outside of that rebuilding range. I don't know what to expect from the Pistons at all. They could try to be competitive with this Olynyk, Grant-led team of youngsters with Cade Cunningham hopefully becoming the number one option by the end of the season. I could also totally see them having to get rid of Grant, who I think would be very sought after by most teams if he became available, and Olynyk, and embrace the rebuild and not be ready for another 5 seasons. I'm going to guess Olynyk is gone soon. I'm going to say that this Pistons team's probably not going to be competitive for, I'll give them 3 to 4 seasons like the Rockets. I think I'd probably have to pick 3 out of those numbers. I'm talking being competitive for like a playoff seed because I really believe in Cunningham as a total package.
Moving to our second fan question here. We talked about the Orlando Magic a little bit earlier. This question says, is Cole Anthony the Orlando Magic's future?
Is he part of the future, but is he going to be the guy? Is he going to be your potential all-star?
The leader.
The lead guy, like the alpha guy over at Orlando? So far, it's probably in the best interest for the Orlando Magic that the answer to that question is no. Anthony has really, really surprised me. I was not high on him at all coming out of the draft. I just kind of thought he was a big stats guy. I didn't expect him to be as good as he's been so far this season. I mean, he was a streaky shooter. He battled with injuries. And again, his game at North Carolina, I was not a huge fan of. But this season so far, he's really broken out. 20 points per game, 7 rebounds, which is ridiculous for a 6'3" point guard, and then 5 assists per game. So he's really he's getting numbers right now. He's shooting 41% from 3 as well, which is a phenomenal number for a guy who really 3-point shooting was a major question mark for him. And that's something you can hang his hat on for the Magic right now because 3-point shooting is definitely one of their worst overall skills. That being said, I think in the best case scenario for the Magic, he continues this high-level play, but is like a second guy, a third guy. I think Jalen Suggs, who's so far 12 points per game, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, he can play off-ball with Cole Anthony. But I think potential-wise, he's the guy who's going to need to become that all-star, that potential all-NBA player if the Magic are going to take the next step and become a real championship contender in the next decade. I think Cole Anthony's definitely earned himself a place here. But I think the Magic needs someone else to be the lead guy because I don't know if Cole Anthony's ever going to be like the unquestioned number one guy on a great team.
Our next question comes from Philadelphia 76ers superfan Kevin Rugira. He says, can Embiid carry the Sixers to a deep playoff run or perhaps a championship run with Ben Simmons out of the picture?
So we did touch on this a little bit last week, but again, the Sixers are going to be a team that are volatile enough this season based on Embiid's health, the Simmons situation, all that stuff is really just going to make it so you could potentially visit them every week, every 2 weeks, and get a different answer to that question. What we know right now is that Embiid's healthy. He isn't exactly playing at his best standard right now. He's only scoring 21 a game, 9 boards, 4 assists, which is a high number for him, but I mean, realistically, Embiid has room to improve on his season. And that's not saying he's had a bad season. He's had an all-star season, but we've seen him do more. If he becomes the player he was last season, I mean, he was leading Jokic in the MVP race until his injury. If he stays healthy and plays like that, I could easily see him taking them to at least the East Conference Finals. We've seen Tobias Harris take a big step forward. Seth Curry's now averaging 16 points a game. Tyrese Maxey, we talked about him a bit last week, but he's really emerged as a great starting point guard for the 76ers. 15 points per game, 4 assists. He's shooting pretty well from 3. And I think they've just, without Ben Simmons, they've really formed a better team around Embiid. It's a team full of shooters. I mean, Niang, Korkmaz, Maxey, Harris, all these guys can shoot the 3 ball, and those are the kind of players that you need around Embiid. They've got good perimeter stoppers. I mean, Maxey again, Shake Milton's a good defender. Then, of course, Danny Green and potential All-NBA defensive team menace Matisse Thybulle. So I'm honestly going to say if Embiid stays healthy and the rest of the team stays where they are now, this is definitely a team that will be at least in the discussion as an Eastern Conference Finals favorite. I don't know if I could call them a champion. I don't think they're there yet, but I think a sneaky conference finals appearance is definitely in the cards for the Sixers if they stay healthy. So champion, no. Top 3 team, conference finals contender, absolutely yes.
All right, now it's time to get into our buy or sell our NBA stock watch for the week. First team up, Memphis Grizzlies.
The Memphis Grizzlies have absolutely been one of the biggest revelations so far this season, Paul. They're 6-4, so not the best start, but the West is always so competitive that you're going to see 6-4 teams right now, and that's still going to be a really competitive mark. So right now they are 5th in the standings for the Western Conference, so well within a playoff spot. And I think the 5th seed it would be a tough get with the Lakers, Clippers, Nuggets, who are all currently behind them. You have to assume those teams will probably, rise to the top and get over them. But I think that competing for the 5th seed is like a good ceiling for the Grizzlies right now. If they continue to just play out of their minds and take the next step, then I could honestly call that a decently achievable goal for this team. That's probably their ceiling. But so far, what we know is that Ja Morant has absolutely taken his game to an all-NBA level so far. He's definitely an all-star if he stays healthy. 26 points per game, 5 rebounds, 7 assists. I mean, he's really just taken the next step forward into being one of the NBA's best guards. He was top 10, in my opinion, last season. He's really going to try to challenge for a top 5 spot. Steven Adams has been, Steven Adams. He's added a lot of toughness and grit and grind that classic Grizzlies fans will definitely be a fan of. He's playing good defense. Desmond Bane, 16 points per game. Just a massive breakout season for him so far. 30th pick of the draft last year out of TCU. He's a solid shooter. He's a great defender. And, that's the kind of guys that the Grizzlies have plenty of on their roster with Kyle Anderson, Brandon Clark, and then, of course, you have Dylan Brooks, who hasn't played yet and was a key piece of their playoff run last year. I think the Grizzlies, I'm absolutely buying their stock right now. I think they're a playoff team, and I think they're one of the most dangerous kind of underdog teams you can end up meeting in the playoffs.
Charlotte Hornets, buy or sell?
Boy, Charlotte for years was definitely one of the teams in the league, for lack of a fancier term. You didn't really pay much attention to them. Kemba Walker was a good story there, but did he ever really take them deep in the playoffs? No. Did they have the team for it? No. LaMelo Ball has at least made them must-see TV, which is a big step forward for them as a small market franchise. LaMelo so far 20 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists. He's really picked up his shooting efficiency, which is a big deal for them. We say it a lot, but that was a swing skill for him coming to the draft. He needed to be able to shoot threes at a high percentage to be an effective floor spacer. Gordon Hayward, he's kind of the one that scares me right now because he is probably the 3rd most important guy on their team right now. And as good as he is, 18 points per game, his injury history is just still scary. He's missed significant time in each of his last 3 seasons. I think 4 years ago was his devastating leg injury at the Celtics. So they need him healthy to compete. Miles Bridges, he's started to come back to earth. He's still averaging 22 points per game. I don't see that continuing all season. But, the Hornets have definitely put together a competitive roster. They're more of a play-in team, a play-in tournament team. So I'm going to sell them as a contender. If they prove me wrong, I won't be surprised. They're definitely going to be in the mix for the play-in, but I don't know if they're like a top playoff team right now.
Clippers.
6-4 right now, so tied with just about every team in their conference, but they're not going to have Kawhi Leonard until the playoffs at best. Paul George, 26 points per game, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals. He has to do anything. He is looking like Oklahoma City Paul George, that one year where he was kind of in the top 5 of MVP contention. That being said, I can't see this bench really helping them get anywhere fast. They don't really have a good second option. Right now it's Reggie Jackson scoring 17 a game. I don't see that continuing for much longer. Nick Batum, Luke Kennard, and Terrence Mann are round out their top 5 scorers right now. I think Mann has a lot of potential, a lot of room to grow. I don't think Kennard and Batum are going to do it for you, so I'm going to sell the Clippers. They're going to be a play-in team for sure, but when you look at the conference standings, the West is still tough. It's still as tough as it's ever been. Nuggets, Lakers, Kings look better. Blazers are always dangerous. You could really look at the Clippers being the 10th best team in the West, barely making that play-in, and then kind of getting blown out. So I'm going to hard sell on the Clippers. Hornets, that was a difficult sell. That's a team I still could see having some success. I don't think the Clippers are going to be there at all this season.
And lastly, to wrap this one up, Will, you see on the board the Washington Wizards. Are you taking it or are you not?
The Washington Wizards are possibly the weirdest team. I mean, normally when we talk about a weird team, it's like the Thunder. A lot of guys who are between 19 and 22, no one knows what to make of them. That's normally the version of a weird team we hear about. But with the Wizards, we have a 7-3 team. They have one all-star player, Bradley Beal. He's only scoring 24. He's not putting up a massive 30 a game. And if you told me Bradley Beal was only putting up 24 points for the Wizards, I would assume they were very much a losing team. I mean, they have relied on him to play absolutely out of his mind on offense, and he still is. He's still an easy all-star. However, Montrezl Harrell, 17 points off the bench. Spencer Dinwiddie, the point guard they brought in from the Nets, 16 points per game. Kyle Kuzma, 14 points per game. This is suddenly a competitive team with a lot of good scores. They got rid of Westbrook, who is one of probably the biggest name move in the offseason, aside from Giannis, is signing a supermax and some other guys doing that. But like as far as actual moves went, Westbrook was probably the biggest surprise, biggest name. But just surrounding Bradley Beal with a better supporting cast of role players has really panned out so far. Russ and Beal were always kind of a weird fit. Harold's come back into his own. Kuzma, I think, really thrives off not being asked to like carry off the bench or sit and do nothing. And then LeBron's out, so now you need to be like an all-star type player. Everyone's going to be pissed at you. Kuzma, I mean, you want to be your fifth or fourth best guy, maybe even off the bench. I don't think he's that great. He's played well for them so far. Raul Neto's been weirdly great. So you have to look at this team and try to figure out who is going to be effective in 20 games, 30 games. Because you could see all these guys fall off. I think Dinwiddie's safe, Harrell's safe, but they're relying on Kuzma and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Raul Neto a lot right now. That being said, you could see Davis Bertans pick his production back up. If he goes back to where he was 2 years ago, that's a big deal for them. I'm going to sell on the Wizards as a top playoff team. They're there right now. I think they'll win a lot of games, but I think if we put them in a high-pressure playoff situation, I don't know how many games they could win. So, surprise start. Already, I think they've played better basketball than I thought I would see them do all season, but I don't think it holds up. I'm going to sell on the Wizards. Whether you're a more casual fan trying to learn more about the league or just someone looking for some interesting stuff, definitely watch the Cavs and the Raptors in the East. And then keep an eye on what Sacramento's doing on the Kings, as well as the whole Jokic brothers, Morris brothers beef. That'll be fun to play out, but man, it's been a wild season so far. I'm really enjoying it and super excited to keep giving you guys a little NBA updates all season.
Well, that'll do it for our second edition of NBA questions. I think we're gonna keep this going. We want to hear your questions down in the comments section for our next video. And if you like this one, be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, show them unqualified opinions, see if they like it. If you want to see more videos like this, click the subscribe button down below and click the bell next to it to get notifications when we post our videos. And lastly, once again, respond to these questions in the comment section down below. We want to know what you think of this video. We want to hear more questions for our next NBA questions video. And we also want to hear more recommendations for other videos that you guys want to see. That being said, for Will Beiermann, I'm Paul Hires. This is Unqualified Opinions, and we'll see you in the next one.